Mr. Seeney, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you see this as a conflict of interest from Clive Palmer?
Oh, this is obviously a political stunt that's been motivated by the fact that Clive Palmer didn't get the sweetheart deal that he wanted from the Queensland government. That's pretty obvious. But whatever it is, Queensland government will be getting on with the job. We've got nothing to hide. We're prepared to be open and accountable to the people of Queensland on any particular given day. So I think the people of Australia will recognise this for what it is. Nothing surprises us in Queensland about what Clive Palmer will do or say. We've seen it all.
What do you make of his motivations? Do you see this as nothing more than this continuation of a personal vendetta?
Absolutely. This is a whole political stunt that's been motivated by the fact that Clive Palmer didn't get the sweetheart deal from the Queensland government that he wanted. We made it very clear that we don't do sweetheart deals with anybody. The real question, of course, today is why the Labor Party would support Mr Palmer's revenge-seeking motion in the Senate, simply because he didn't get the sweetheart deal that the Labor Party would have quite rightly criticised us for had we done it.
At the same time, we played a clip there by Glenn Lazarus, the Palmer United Party senator, where he said he had all these people crying on the phone to him about the way you're running the state. Surely that needs investigation?
We're happy to talk to the people of Queensland, as we have done for the last 2.5 years, about the strategy we have to get Queensland back on track, to address the critical debt situation, to create the jobs that are necessary for the Queensland of the future, to address the service delivery issues like health and education, all of which were in a crisis under the Labor administration. But why on earth the Labor Party would do a deal with Clive Palmer so he can exact revenge for not getting the sweetheart deal that he wanted, and apparently trade away an initiative that started under Julia Gillard's government to make it easier to get resource projects up in Queensland. That appears to be what the Labor Party have done. They've traded away mining jobs so that Clive Palmer can seek his revenge. The mining industry in Queensland at the moment but really does need a boost, and we're doing everything we can to create the mining jobs that Queenslanders will need. The question for the Labor Party is why they were prepared to trade away Queensland mining jobs so that Clive Palmer could seek this sort of revenge.
At the same time, there have been allegations, as you well know, of rule bending by some mining interests to help, and who are also LNP donors. Are you completely comfortable, Jeff Seeney, that this Senate inquiry will clear the Newman government of any wrongdoing on that front?
Look, the only LNP donor that has ever sought rule bending from the Queensland government is Clive Palmer. And we wouldn't bend the rules. We wouldn't give him the sweetheart deal that he wanted, and that's why he's pursuing this revenge agenda in the federal Senate. So the Queensland government has got absolutely nothing to hide. Please to answer your questions or questions from any other journalist in Australia on any day about any subject, and happy to do that as we have been for the last 2.5 years. We've brought a whole new level of accountability to the Queensland government. We've got an open data process now. We've got right to information that the former government never had. That Clive Palmer has actually probably had more right to information documents from the Queensland government than any other person in Queensland's history. All very open and accountable. The real question is why the Labor Party wants to trade off Queensland mining jobs so that Clive Palmer can pursue this agenda.
Also, in the terms of reference, is judicial appointments by the Newman government, and one appointment which has gone national in terms of the controversy it's created, of course, is Tim Carmody as your state's new Chief Magistrate. As you also know, Jeff Seeney, several senior lawyers in Queensland say he was simply not qualified for the job. Do you believe now that we had this Senate inquiry with witnesses having to appear that appointment will pass muster?
That was a subject of public debate in Queensland, as it was right and proper for it to be. Happy for that public debate to continue in Queensland. It certainly won't be added to by a political stunt that's been motivated by revenge and supported by the Labor Party, who are prepared to trade off Queensland jobs in the future so that Clive Palmer can seek his little bit of revenge for a sweetheart deal that he didn't get.
When you talk about revenge, Jeff Seeney, couldn't the same be said about the coalition government in Canberra, who of course have launched this Royal Commission into trade unions, for instance?
Well, my responsibility as Queensland Deputy Premier is to respond to a politically motivated a motion or resolution in the Senate last night that was about Clive Palmer seeking revenge. The disappointing thing for us in Queensland is that the Labor Party, we would expect would work with us to create jobs for Queenslanders, have been prepared to trade off those Queensland jobs so that Clive Palmer can seek his revenge.
I'll ask that question again, Jeff Seeney. Aren't these claims a bit hollow when we have the federal government commissioning this inquiry into the trade union movement?
Well, my role as Deputy Premier is to respond to a resolution in the federal Parliament, the federal Senate last night, that was motivated by revenge, that Clive Palmer seeking revenge for not getting the sweetheart business deal that he wanted. Disappointing thing for us in Queensland is that the Labor Party has been prepared to trade off Queensland mining jobs to support Clive Palmer's revenge. We would have thought that despite our political differences, both Labor Party and any other major party would be prepared to support Queensland jobs, be prepared to support the Queensland resources industry, rather than use those mining jobs as pawns in a political deal that is all about Clive Palmer seeking revenge for not getting the sweetheart deal that he wanted.
You can't see any basis to these claims that the revenge motivations can be attributed to this Royal Commission into the trade unions?
There's certainly a lot of basis for everybody understanding that Clive Palmer's whole strategy in the Senate has been motivated by revenge. He sought a sweetheart deal from the Queensland government. We refuse to do that. We don't do business that way. We have operated in an open and accountable way, and if the result is that Clive Palmer has now sought to instigate this political stunt as revenge. The real question is why the Labor Party would support that. The real question is why the Labor Party are prepared to gamble away or trade away an initiative that began under the government of Julia Gillard, that was all about ensuring that Queensland's resources industries and Australian resources industries were competitive in the world market. That's been traded away last night in a dirty, grubby deal with Clive Palmer so that he can seek revenge. The losers in that will be Queensland miners, Queensland mining families who are losing their jobs at the moment and who desperately need a revival in the resources industry. They desperately need new resource projects like the Galilee Basin. And the deal that was done by Queensland Labor and Clive Palmer last night will make it a lot more difficult for the Galilee Basin to be developed. Now, that Clive Palmer would like to see that happen because he's still aggrieved by the fact that other people are developing their Galilee Basin holdings much more successfully than he is. But the real losers will be the Queensland miners and people who work in the resources industry, the Queensland mining families and the communities that they live in, like Mackay and Townsville and Rockhampton and all of those communities along the Queensland coast.
And I just want to pick you up there. How and why will the Senate inquiry impede the development of the Galilee Basin?
Because the deal that has been done it involves the reforms to the EPBC Act, which began under Julia Gillard's government, that were about ensuring that there was one approval system that operated in tandem across the state and federal legislation. Now, that process has been a long time in the preparation. It was nearing completion, and the deal that's been done is that Clive Palmer and the Labor have been prepared to support the Greens initiative to stop that deal.